Hey everybody, it's Z, and today we're talking about privilege. Now, I don't know how many of you have heard of privilege before or what it is. Basically, we're talking about privilege in the sense that some people, compared to other people, do not have to deal with certain problems. For example, if you take me, I have middle class privilege. That is because I am, and my family is, middle class, which means I do not have to deal with things such as being homeless or worried about being homeless. I do not have to worry about being hungry. I was able to, because my parents were able to pay for a private school and then also pay high taxes for a good public school. I got really good schooling. I can actually, I don't have to worry as much about paying for college. I get to go to college. Yeah, these are all things that I get because I'm middle class. And people who are poor generally do not have these things. So I am more privileged in terms of class than a poor person. This doesn't mean that, my life is easy. It doesn't mean my life is easier than that poor person's. It just means that I do not have to deal with the things that they have to deal with. There are lots of types of privilege. There's race privilege, like white privilege. I obviously do not have white privilege because I'm black. Because I do not have white privilege, I have to deal with racism and all the things that come along with that. Another type of privilege sort of having to do with race is light skin privilege. Like people who are lighter skinned do not don't have to deal with the things that darker skinned people have to deal with. And the prejudice that causes that difference is called colorism. Not many people know that. It's different from racism because, it's prevalent in almost all societies, and it can be within a race. You can have one race and colorism is within the race. Okay, I'm going on a tangent right now. Back to privilege. So, another example of privilege that has to do with the people, everybody in this channel, is binary privilege. Now, what I mean by that is privilege that people who are either binary men or binary women have compared to non-binary people. Now, I've seen some people say that this doesn't exist because binary trans people have to deal with awful, transphobia, and that the transphobia they have to deal with isn't better than the transphobia that non-binary people have to deal with. And when I say that binary people have privilege, I don't mean that. I do not mean that non-binary people have more transphobia directed at them. That's a different topic. What I'm saying is that binary trans people do not have to deal with certain things that non-binary trans people have to deal with. For example, if you have binary privilege, you probably do not have to hear people say your gender does not exist, because everyone accepts that the male gender and the female gender exist. You probably do not have to deal. Oh no, it's not that you don't have to deal. If you have binary privilege, it is societally, you are capable of, by the rules of society, you are capable of passing as your gender. Now, this doesn't apply to all societies, but in our society, by our I mean the US and Western society, there isn't recognition of non-binary genders. So it is impossible for non-binary people to pass. Not because of the way we look, like, it doesn't matter how we look, it doesn't matter how, like, cis people see us, we will never be able to pass in general society because people don't have any idea of our gender, so they can't assume we are that gender because they don't know what it is. But if you are binary, it's not saying that if you are binary trans that you yourself specifically will necessarily be able to pass, but it is societally, like, it is possible in the society for you to pass. It doesn't mean you do pass, but it's possible. Like, do you understand what I mean? And being able to pass has a lot of, like, it has really a huge effect on your life. If you, especially, like, if you're able to pass as a binary gender, people will assume you're cisgender, and then you don't have to deal with a lot of the stuff that people who don't pass have to deal with. You don't have to deal with constant misgendering. You don't have to deal with physical violence directed at you when you are passing. Of course, the risk of being clocked is still there, but if you aren't, then you don't have that risk of physical violence. So you can see that these privileges aren't, like, binary privilege isn't like, oh, it's nothing. You know, it exists. Again, it doesn't mean that non-binary people have it harder than binary trans people. It's just that they have it harder when it comes to these certain things. Okay. Yeah, by the way, I'm taking Fridays now. I switched with Lane. They're doing Saturdays now. So, I'll see you next Friday. Bye, guys.